You're listening to The Wells Report, which will return in 1 minute. The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good morning, I'm John David Wells. Today is Monday, July 29th, year of our Lord, 2024. On this broadcast, we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We do make commentary. Commentary is not news. It simply isn't. It's opinion. Both yours and mine. Let's compare. Let's debate. The Wells Report in progress. Thanks for joining us. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. As the days pass, we find out more and more about the assassination attempt against Donald Trump. CNN reports as follows: text messages between law enforcement before the assassination attempt earlier this month suggest that some officers raised the shooter's presence at the rally more than 90 minutes before he climbed onto the roof and fired 8 rounds at the former president. In a text message obtained by Republican Senator Chuck Grassley from the Beaver County Emergency Unit, a local counter sniper first raised with his colleagues that he saw someone park near their vehicles and sit on a nearby picnic table at 4:26 p.m. that afternoon. According to the messages, which were first reported by the New York Times, law enforcement later took a picture of the same man who turned out to be the shooter, Thomas Matthew Crooks, and sent it to other officers in a group chat nearly 30 minutes before Crooks would shoot at Trump at the Butler, Pennsylvania rally. Quote, kid learning, that's probably lurking, kid learning around the building we are in. I did see him with a rangefinder looking toward the stage. FYI, if you want to notify Secret Service snipers to look out, I lost sight of him. Questions remain over how local law enforcement failed after spotting Crooks previously to stop the shooter from climbing up the side of the nearby building and coming so close to killing a former president and current Republican nominee. It's also unclear how the Secret Service designated security that day and who managed the communications between local and federal law enforcement. ABC has made some communications between themselves and local law enforcement. This is an exclusive report that was seen this morning on Good Morning America. Check this out. It's very instructive. Watch the whole thing. It's really important.
The command took that information and did. I remember standing in the parking lot talking to one of the guys, and so we just became part of history. Not in a good way.
The SWAT team from Beaver County, Pennsylvania knew something about the scrawny young man seemed off. He can be seen in this video obtained by ABC affiliate WTAE skulking around former President Trump's rally. Text messages between local snipers show they noticed Thomas Matthew Crooks at 4:26 p.m., nearly 2 hours before the attempted assassination that would injure Trump, kill a man, and severely hurt 2 others. You see me go out with my rifle, one of the snipers texted, so he knows you guys are up there. By 5:14 p.m., they grew suspicious.
He was looking up and down the building and just wandering around. It just seemed out of place.
Greg Nichols snapped these photos of the shooter.
We had a text group between the local snipers that were on scene. I had sent those pictures out to that group and advised them of what I noticed and what I'd seen.
What do you think is transpiring once you send in what you've sent in?
I assumed that there would be somebody coming out to speak with this individual or, find out what's going on.
So how do you know if Greg's concerns about crooks are being relayed properly?
We don't. We have to assume that when he put that information out to command, that command took that information and did something with it. We don't know if they did.
None of the concerns appears to have reached members of Trump's Secret Service detail. The Washington Post reports they've complained they were never made aware of the warnings. In their first public comments about the assassination attempt, members of the Beaver County SWAT team described to ABC News what they consider to be failures of planning and communication that would prove catastrophic.
We were supposed to get a face-to-face briefing with the Secret Service snipers whenever they arrived, and that never happened. So I think that was probably a pivotal point where I started thinking things were wrong, because that never happened, and we had no communication with the Secret Service.
You had no communication with the Secret Service at all on that Saturday?
No, not until after the shooting, I believe. Yeah.
And by then?
It was too late.
The Secret Service declined to respond directly, but told ABC News the agency is committed to better understanding what happened and is offering complete cooperation with ongoing investigations.
The suspect is directly above us.
Members of the Beaver County SWAT team rushed to the shooter's rooftop.
There's a ladder right here.
As seen in footage from Rich Gianvito's helmet camera.
Thanks, brother. Yep. So we had access through that ladder, got up onto the roof.
And as you're scrambling onto that roof, you don't know for sure whether he's dead or alive, or whether you'll encounter fire.
At that point, no.
So what are you prepared? Are you prepared for a firefight at that point?
Well, we're prepared for anything at that point, because at this time we're unsure.
Give me a solid perimeter. Get guys prepped to clear the building.
He encountered the shooter's bloodied body some 400 feet from the stage. The team believes it did everything it could have to thwart the attack, but accepts its share of failure.
I think we all failed that day.
How so?
Life was lost.
Yeah. People died.
It's a lot. That's a terribly empty feeling when you realize that, yeah, you're a part of history in a very bad way. And I feel for those guys. I truly do. But it does point out the amazing failures of that particular day in Butler County, Pennsylvania. When you look back at this, as all these pieces of information come out, you do realize that there are more sources than just the FBI, just the inspector generals that will be looking at this, both the FBI inspector general and the Secret Service inspector general. You realize that there will be more pieces of information like what we just saw in this brilliant ABC News exclusive report. And it's all harrowing and it's all bad. And you wonder whether or not we've seen the last of it. Heaven knows, I certainly hope so. But when you start looking at all of this and you start hearing all of this stuff, and I only bring the cogent information here, there are other salacious things out there that don't really add the story. The thing that you need to know is this Butler County SWAT team sat down with ABC and said, hey, this is what we saw. This is what we did, etc. It also seems to point out that the very first people on the rooftop were indeed members of the Butler County SWAT team. And that is also something that's going to be an important point. Now, we still haven't heard anything. There are parts of this story that are indeed in the possession of the FBI. The 3 different offshore accounts this young man was dealing with. There are circumstances surrounding what was a burner phone, or what could be a burner phone, that actually pinged an office near FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. What's the actual background of that phone? Was Thomas Crooks in Washington, D.C., or was the phone in Washington, D.C.? If the phone was in Washington, D.C., how did that phone come into the possession of Thomas Matthew Crooks? If indeed Thomas Matthew Crooks was not in Washington, D.C., then there is a conspiracy afoot based on that telephone. This is not like 1963 when there were only 3 news organizations, at least from a television standpoint, certainly many more from the print media, and certainly nobody except for Abraham Zapruder had any way of recording the images of an assassination like we have now. This is good for all of us, because what we will be able to see are we're going to see independent sources of information. The trick is to sift through those independent sources of information and then realize which are essentially scurrilous stabs at whatever conspiracy theory happens to be surrounding the story at this particular moment. And that information which is true, we try to provide the latter. What's also more important is something that I've said. We do have to wait for these reports. I suspect that the 60-day idea of being able to do all these reports will be more from an internal agency standpoint. We will hear more and see more about this story as it develops. And so as we look at this, we go, well, what else is the news today? Beaver County SWAT, it's Beaver County, not Butler County, sorry. Beaver County SWAT sniper Gary Nichols said something didn't feel right when he first spotted a young man skulking around former president's Butler State Rally, or Butler Rally site. The team's assistant leader saw the man in the gray T-shirt, a would-be assassin, Thomas Matthew Crooks, from his second floor post inside the AGR complex at the Butler Farm Show. He was looking up and down the building. It just seemed out of place. This, by the way, is something that is taught to people that are supposed to be doing things like this. It's looking for an out-of-context situation, something that doesn't fit. And intuition plays a big part of that. And so, obviously, those senses were triggered by the Beaver County SWAT team. The officer noticed an unattended backpack and a bicycle, then saw the man pulling a rangefinder from his pocket. At 4:26, the sharpshooter snapped photos of the bicycle and the young man and sent them to a group chat of snipers from his team working the event before reporting the sighting to their command group. I assumed that there would be someone coming out to, speak with the individual or me to find out what was going on. Nichols said he tried to shadow the scrawny man in the gray shirt, but lost him as Nichols moved down to the AGR building's first level, and Crooks was outside the building within 2 hours. Crooks would fire a volley of shots, injuring the former president and 2 rally-goers and killing firefighter Corey Comparator. As the former president began to speak, Nichols noticed rally-goers looking away from the podium and toward the roof of the building. This is also something we call a clue. Some shouting that he was up there. Initially, he was relieved, thinking that, quote, they must have found this guy we were looking for out there. And everybody's watching the police deal with him. That's when I heard the gunshots. The team described ascending the roof after snipers fired back at Crooks, unaware that whether the gunman was dead or alive. Quote, so we accessed through that ladder. We got up on the roof, said team member Rich Gianvito, whose body cam footage from the rooftop has since been obtained by Fox News. We're prepared for anything at that point because this time we're unsure. SWAT medic Michael Vasiliados Nichols responded to the roof with Gianvito and other members of law enforcement. We ascended that ladder to meet up with what we weren't sure again, whether it was a mass casualty or what we were walking into. They found Crooks bleeding heavily on the roof. His wrists were hastily bound with white zip ties in case he was still alive. Vasiliados Nichols put her gloved fingers to the shooter's neck and recalled he had absolutely no pulse. Jason Woods, another sharpshooter from the local area, said the team had no contact with the U.S. Secret Service until after the shooting. He was the man that was sitting back describing this. Quote, we were supposed to get a face-to-face briefing with the Secret Service snipers whenever they arrived, and that never happened. That's just plain dangerous. So what you have is uncoordinated sniper teams, counter sniper teams, really? Uncoordinated counter sniper teams. This belies an even more systemic mess up on the part of the Secret Service. It seems like nobody was in charge of that detail. The only people in charge happen to be the ones surrounding the president directly. That requires another question. Who are the other guys? It's been talked about that there were DHS personnel, more DHS personnel on the scene than Secret Service personnel. Why? DHS, of course, is who the Secret Service responds to. That might be something we need to change for the future, don't you think? Because guess who's sitting atop of DHS? Alejandro Mayorkas. This is the Wells Report. More news coming up in just a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells thanking you for being with us. The families of the two injured bystanders in the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump have broken their silence after the shooting left their loved ones hospitalized. This from Fox News. James Copenhaver's family thanked the people for the outpouring of support as he recovers from his life-altering injuries at Allegheny General Hospital. Jim would like to especially thank the first responders, medics, and hospital staff who have provided him with initial and continuing care, the family said. This in a statement by Allegheny Health Network. Additionally, Jim would like to express his thoughts and prayers for the other victims, their families, and President Trump. He prays for a safe and speedy recovery for them all, they said. Allegheny Health Network said that Copenhagen was discharged from the Allegheny General Hospital late last Friday. 74-year-old Copenhagen and 57-year-old David Jake Dutch were both critically injured when the 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks opened fire at the Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, Saturday, July 13th. Dutch's family also released a statement on their loved one's recovery, sharing that he was upgraded to serious but stable condition on Wednesday. The family thanked the surgical team at the Western Pennsylvania Hospital for saving the 57-year-old's life following the horrific shooting at the Butler County Fairgrounds. Quote, David and our entire family are especially grateful to all the first responders and medical professionals who saved his life, including the Life Flight and trauma surgical teams at AGH. They said in a statement released by the Allegheny Health Network. As we focus on David's recovery, we are also offering our deepest condolences and prayers for the other victims of this tragic event and their families. Dutch, by the way, was discharged from the hospital last Wednesday. Corey Comparator, 50 years old, killed in the shooting while former President Donald Trump was left injured when the bullet grazed his ear, was remembered at his funeral as a loving father and loyal firefighter. He died while shielding his family from the onslaught of gunfire that erupted at the rally. Trump commemorated the falling firefighter at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee with Comparator's fighter jacket, his turnout gear, his helmet, and his jacket displayed on stage. It's also called trench gear, in case you're wondering. Quote, he lost his life selflessly, acting as a human shield to protect them from flying bullets, referring to his family. What a fine man he was. There's no greater love than to lay down one's life for others. It was tragic, and it was awful, and it remains, for the most part, mainly understood, or misunderstood, rather. And so as we come to this broadcast, again, we're looking for more. We don't want to rush it. That's where conspiracy theories come from. Conspiracy theories are always detrimental. Wait for, such as it is, the real news. That's why we go often for our stories. We go offshore. They have a different perspective. They don't have as much of a, shall we say, taint from the state of politics in the United States. They do have some, but not as much as American news sources. We keep our eyes open for all of this. I promise you that we'll bring you all the information necessary. But conspiracy theories, conspiracy theorization is a problem. It is a problem. It takes people down rabbit holes that are very, very difficult to recover from. And I'm hoping sincerely that people will turn away from those things in an effort to wait for truth. We are going to have to wait. But as I said last segment, it is something we're not going to have to wait as long for, and we will certainly have more information than we've ever had before. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172. People joining us on the chat room, you can do that too on the platform of your choice. We broadcast on a lot of them: Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitch, Rumble, Patreon a little bit later on today, and also Spreaker. So if you want this as a podcast, you can go there. If you find any value in this, please do subscribe to this channel when you have a moment. Pass this along to your friends. Share it. Ask them to subscribe. Give us those thumbs ups. Those are important. And don't forget to light the notification bell so you know when we're on, telling you the news. Yeah, Gary points out that Sky News Australia is another good source for information on just about everything America. This is the Wells Report. We'll be back with more coming up in just a couple of moments. Please stay there.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Turning to the election, there are some interesting pieces of information that are out. Fox News is reporting that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, the Democrat from New York, said that former President Trump should swap out his incredibly bad choice of Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio as his running mate. He was appearing on Face the Nation from CBS. He discussed the upcoming presidential election when he decided to address the addition of J.D. Vance to the GOP ticket. Quote, It's an incredibly bad choice. I think Donald Trump, I know him. He's probably sitting and watching the TV, and every day Vance comes out. Vance has done something more extreme, more weird, more erratic. Vance seems to be more erratic and more extreme than Donald Trump, unquote. He went on to say this, and I'll bet President Trump is sitting there scratching his head and wondering, why did I pick this guy? The choice may be one of the best things he ever did for Democrats, according to the senator and the Senate Majority Leader. Referring to Trump, the former president and the 2024 Republican presidential nominee, Schumer said the president has about 10 days before the Ohio ballot is locked in. And he has a choice. Does he keep Vance on the ticket? He already has a lot of baggage. He's probably going to be more baggage over the weeks because we'll hear more things about him. Or does he pick somebody new? And what's his choice? The left has gone after Vance in recent days over a 2021 interview in which the Ohio senator appeared to disparage childless cat ladies in the Democrat Party. We childless cat ladies. Anyway, we are effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. That, by the way, was from 3 years ago, specifically calling out Vice President Kamala Harris and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as being part of that group. On an episode of Fox News' The Brian Kilmeade Show, Trump 2024 senior campaign advisor Chris LaCivita said that Vance's interview is being blatantly taken out of context, adding that the Trump-Vance campaign is not against childless women, as the liberal media is saying. Vance, the author of Hillbilly Elegy, a memoir adapted into a Netflix film about his time as a Yale Law School student reflecting on growing up in Appalachia. Not Appalachia, it's Appalachia. I used to live there. Anyway, he was propelled into national headlines when Trump announced him as vice presidential running mate at the start of the Republican National Convention. By the way, also seeing what is being described as an opening by CNN, Kamala Harris' plan as a running mate was to brush past J.D. Vance as nothing but a rubber stamp for Donald Trump. But now she's the presumptive Democrat nominee. Her campaign is seizing on the Ohio senator as a major liability, looking to her own vice presidential selection process and the contender's public auditions to drive home the point. Vance's elevation, despite his relative lack of government experience, is giving Harris a new opportunity to go after Trump. The message is not just that Vance is weird, as the vice president said at a fundraiser this weekend, or that he has objectionable views, according to advisors. It's that the Ohio senator shouldn't be a heartbeat away from the presidency, and that Trump picking him raises more questions about the top of the ticket. This strategy is also a way to put Trump's age in focus now that President Joe Biden is not part of the conversation, by highlighting how close Vance would be to occupying the Oval Office if something were to happen to a 70-year-old president. And poking holes in Vance's resume, as some potential Harris running mates are doing, is a way for them to argue that Republicans are holding the presumptive Democrat nominee to a different standard when they attack her as a DEI hire. We have a black woman, we have a white guy, and nobody asked the white guy about experience, said Harris campaign co-chair Mitch Landrieu. After Vance was announced as Trump's pick, and while Democrats were still waiting to see whether Biden would exit the race, Harris told several advisors she saw Trump's choice as doubling down on his MAGA base rather than expanding the appeal of the ticket. She and her team were excited to face Vance as opposed to the others on the former president's shortlist, eager to tag him as a hypocrite and a Trump sycophant. In the perverse ways of American politics, there are certain things you can surmise, riskily if you choose, about various pieces of rhetoric being thrown about various candidates, typically on the other side of the ticket. And for those people that see J.D. Vance and Donald Trump as a potent political force, there is something that you can almost always surmise, but once again, it's risky, that if they're yelling about something that you have just put out or a stance that you've made, you're winning. That is a way to determine whether or not the political hits are actually valid. Chuck Schumer saying, gosh, he's weird, he's erratic, he's crazy, he's this, he's that, it's the best thing ever for Democrats. what you do is you put the reverse on it, because this is a rhetorical tool. They're trying to create some kind of a feeling that somehow Vance is weird and odd. And they're even using the words. That usually means that they are worried about the choice. J.D. Vance is accomplished. He built himself quite literally from nothing. Joined the Marine Corps, went to Yale, educated himself, ran for the Senate, and won as a young man. That is not something that you see very often. So something about J.D. Vance was immediately resonant with Ohio voters, and they put him in that office. Now, as opposed to when it comes to, say, for example, experience level, Kamala Harris isn't that experienced either, certainly not from a world stage standpoint. And maybe this is an inoculation against those claims that will doubtless be brought up during this campaign. And so I wanted to point something out to you. I wanted to point out that indeed, there are fragments of rhetoric that everybody ruminates over, et cetera, just like we're doing right now. And those fragments are basically instructive, but always when you see the other side of whatever political question you might be asking or you have a decision to make about, when they're saying things like, this person is this and that this person is that, it means that they don't really have anything else to talk about. That's another assumption that you can make, something else you can surmise. You know, when Mitt Romney ran for the presidency, there was nothing in Mitt Romney's background that would have created any problems during the campaign. Nothing in his background, except for one supposed act of bullying in high school. I mentioned at the time, you know, if you got to go back to somebody's high school career when they're half-baked cookies to find out that there was some moment where he took someone in hand, et cetera, and could be described as bullying when it may not have been, I think you're trying too hard. And I think that's what I'm seeing here. This is just my opinion. If you're talking about the other candidate, it's because you can't talk about your candidacy. And that's something that I think you should consider. And I think you should think about moving forward. Chuck Schumer is speaking in the photographic negative. When he says something is really, really good, it's really, really bad. When he says something is very odd, erratic, weird, that's because he doesn't have anything else to say. And so, once again, none of this has anything to do with what I think or what I believe. Only you can make that decision in the privacy of a voting booth. That's the most important thing. I'm just going to provide basic fact, you know, my particular ideas about those facts, but I am in no way, shape, or form trying to coerce you in any particular direction. All I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say, hey, this is what I've seen over my years of doing this job. And I've very rarely seen political campaigns that use ad hominem attacks. In other words, taking out the other candidate. I haven't seen it work very often. And I don't suspect that they're going to have much success with this, because sooner or later, whether they are coerced by circumstances or whether they are actually physically directed to answer a question about policy, these policy things are going to be discussed. And the sooner the Democrat Party starts discussing those issues and makes a case for those issues, the sooner they'll have a better chance. J.D. Vance is not a national issue. To a major degree, all of the things being thrown at Donald Trump are not major national issues. The major national issues are the economy, energy, the border. All of these things are the real issues in this campaign. And the back and forth, the rumination, I would tell both campaigns, stop talking about the other guy. Stop talking about the other guy and start putting forward your ideas of where this country needs to go and why you believe it needs to go there. The people of the United States will decide this election, and that is simply that. Now, there are some other things that are going on. We talk a lot about going around the world for news. Well, CNN did exactly that and came up with an interesting story regarding what the Chinese people believe about Kamala Harris, at least in this small snapshot. Take a look at this, especially one of the guys in Beijing speaking to us in perfectly idiomatic American English. This is an amazing report. Check this out.
Kamala Harris, a common question on Chinese social media. In a nation ruled almost entirely by men, many are shocked to learn the vice president of the United States is a woman, some calling Harris a female Obama. But online polls show most Chinese don't think she has a chance against former President Donald Trump.
I don't know too much about her. Yes. And I think a lot of people don't know a lot about her in China. Everyone knows about Trump.
The drama surrounding Trump and U.S. President Joe Biden trending on China's internet for weeks, untouched by Beijing's usually heavy-handed government censors. A flood of comments criticizing the U.S. political system as a circus, saying whoever becomes the next president, he or she is going to target China. Officially, Beijing has no comment on Biden dropping out of the race and endorsing Harris, calling it a U.S. domestic affair. Harris met with Chinese President Xi Jinping in 2022, signaling how a future President Harris would handle one of America's biggest adversaries.
We do not invite conflict, but we absolutely are prepared to and engaged in what is necessary to compete.
People in China are posting pics of the presumptive Democratic nominee alongside cartoon character Lisa Simpson from that episode when she became president.
As you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump.
Some are calling the Simpsons episode from 24 years ago a presidential prophecy. And for all the doubters in China about a woman beating a man, Alan in Beijing says all bets are off.
I think Kamala Harris has a better chance at winning this election.
The most talked about thing, the way Harris laughs.
Do this!
Chinese social media users nicknamed Harris Sister Haha. Some call her dramatic, laughter, crazy, and cringe. Others say it's endearing and even a sign of good fortune.
All right, so there you go. That's what some of the people in Chinese social media think. And of course, the government immediately stood up and said, hey, regardless of who the president of the United States is, they will certainly be coming for the country of China, which is obviously something that you would say if you were a totalitarian government running a gigantic country. Even though the communications in China have opened up to a degree, much of what they see is censored, as was talked about in that CNN report, which, by the way, was very beautifully done. I don't get a chance to say this very often, but I will tell you that that report was almost perfectly balanced in my view. And that's important. That's important. Maybe people are settling down, and certainly the CNN website is far better at bringing you news in a balanced way than the network itself. The network itself is still suffering the hangover of Jeff Zucker and putting all of those leftist commentators in places. And that kind of harkens back to some of the things about Vance's cat lady comment. You know, there are an awful lot of people outside the mainstream that have very important roles when it comes to reporting the news in the United States and even commenting on them. They are indeed people who don't have children. You know, Kamala Harris doesn't have children. And children change you. It changes your entire outlook. It forces you to look forward as to the decision making that you do. Because it's not just you and your life at this particular moment. You're trying to lay the groundwork for an American life for your children as well. And so children are important. They are. And it's kind of strange to have commentators that are outside of other societal groups, parents, if you will, you know, heterosexual marriage, et cetera, when they're all talking about heterosexual marriage and children, you go, what are you talking about? Where is that information coming from? Well, it's certainly coming from academic conversations and a lack of perspective, in my view. Once again, does that matter? Not in the national issues, but it certainly matters in the human ones. And while humanity can be switched and pushed and changed and spun, et cetera, based on the political imperative of the day, it's still something that needs to be discussed. How about regular folk? How about them? What do they think?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
This is the Wells Report. Good morning. John David Wells thanking you very much for joining us. Other news, a migrant living in the United States illegally shot and wounded a Texas police officer in an early morning confrontation yesterday, according to multiple law enforcement sources. This, a report from Fox News. Venezuelan national Jorge Chacon Gutierrez, he's 25 years of age, died in the shootout with the San Antonio Police Department. It was unclear whether he was killed by officers or whether he had committed suicide. The shooting began after SAPD responded to a domestic violence call around 3 a.m., this according to sources speaking to Fox News. They found the suspect lying in bed with a rifle. The suspect began shooting at officers before returning fire. A female police officer was wounded during the shooting. Sources told Fox News the officer was shot multiple times. She underwent surgery yesterday morning, is expected to survive. Law enforcement officers later discovered that Chacon Gutierrez was apprehended by Border Patrol after crossing illegally into Eagle Pass, Texas. That happened in November of 2023. After being apprehended, Chacon Gutierrez was released into the U.S. with a future court date set for April of 2026. Fox News reached out to U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement for more information. That has not happened to show up yet. Elsewhere on the border, also from Fox News, 3 Palestinian migrants who crossed into the U.S. illegally through the southern border were detained after they were found to have terrorist ties. This, according to media reports. Federal law enforcement sources told the New York Post that one of the migrants had salacious photos on their phone, including an image of a masked man holding an AK-47. In addition to Palestinians, one migrant from Turkey is suspected of having ties to terror groups. It's unclear which terrorist organization the migrants were allegedly affiliated with. Fox News has reached out to border authorities. The migrants were among a larger group who turned themselves in to border agencies at the San Diego sector. They were taken into custody by ICE, and the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force was investigating their cases. Border agents at the San Diego sector had been overwhelmed but don't have access to criminal databases in other countries to properly vet migrants, said one identified agent who spoke to the outlet on the condition of anonymity. Quote, knowing who these guys are, we have no access to anything international. We really don't, and it kind of sucks, the agent said. He went on to say, I wanted to get into Border Patrol and protect from terrorists. And it's well, I probably let terrorists into the country. This is the dichotomy facing Border Patrol agents. They face that every single day. Border agents in San Diego have been warned to keep a lookout for people possibly tied to Palestinian terror groups following the October 7th attack on Israel by Hamas. Quote, San Diego Field Office intelligence units assess the individuals inspired by or reacting to the current Israel-Hamas conflict may attempt to travel to or from the area of hostilities in the Middle East via circuitous transit across the southwestern border, this according to a previous alert. Quote, foreign fighters motivated by ideology or mercenary soldiers of fortune may attempt to obfuscate travel to or from the U.S. or to other countries in the Middle East through Mexico. It listed the patch insignia of various terror groups, including Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and Hezbollah. The number of caught illegal migrants whose names appear on the terror watch list has significantly increased during the Biden administration, reports Fox News, from a handful before he took office to 98 for fiscal year 2022. That number skyrocketed to 169 in fiscal year 2023, according to federal data. And then there's this. Residents in New York are really serious when it comes to migrants creating crime in their homes. Residents in the heavy Democrat district of Brooklyn are fuming as they are afraid to go outside or use the city parks due to the criminal chaos being caused by a mega shelter for illegal migrants. Once again, this is Fox News. Clinton Hill was once a charming and relatively safe part of Brooklyn. It's now turning into a chaotic environment filled with migrants due to a mega complex set up by New York City to house thousands. Locals organized over the weekend in protest of the skyrocketing violence, mounting trash, the constant fights stemming from the massive complex. We have to be heard. Enough is enough, said Renee Collymore, the Democrat liaison who organized the protest. It's not about anti-migrants. It's about safety. The complex is located in Brooklyn's Clinton Hill as a major emergency migrant shelter setup comprising several industrial warehouses. It was opened in July of 2023. It provides housing for around 4,000 migrants. The development has sparked local community concerns about crime, noise, waste, and overcrowded public spaces. We've been witnessing the escalation in violence on the street and in the community for months now, a resident told a local ABC News outlet. Residents have mostly organized to call for change after an outbreak in what law enforcement is investigating as potentially related to violent Venezuelan street gangs. Over the weekend, Sunday in fact, 2 people were murdered. A third was critically injured near the mega shelter complex. Now it feels like the whole section is just not available to the community anymore. No longer, the parks are no longer available. You can't go to the parks. We've been pleading with the mayor. We've been seeing increased violence, and this was inevitable. It's now home to, quote, the largest concentration of migrants outside of Randall's Island. This according to NYPD Assistant Chief Scott Henderson, who oversees Brooklyn North. Adams reacted to the recent murders saying, quote, they're extremely dangerous, unquote. Went on to say, we're dealing with violent individuals that are not representative of the overwhelming number of people who are coming here as migrant asylum seekers. That matters to who? Who does that matter to? Yeah, we only have a few of these people that are extremely dangerous. The others are okay. Well, you don't get one without the other, Mr. Mayor. So what's the solution? Seems obvious to me. How about you? This is the Wells Report. John David Wells, thanking you very much for joining us on this Monday. That's our number one in the books. The Israeli-Hezbollah conflict has roared to life. Also, the president wants to change the Supreme Court of the United States. Those are all issues we talk about next hour on the Wells Report. Stay put.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. I'm John David Wells. Today is Monday, July 29th, year of our Lord 2024. On this broadcast, we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We de-propagandize the mainstream media. That being said, we do make commentary, but I differentiate between commentary, which is opinion, and news. Opinions are fine. Mine are okay, I think. Yours are okay, you think. Well, I tell you what, let's compare our opinions. Let's discuss. Let's debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. The Wells Report in progress. Thanks very much for being a part of us. We've got a chat room, and a lot of people are making use of it today. Let's see. Oh, well, New York City. This is from Gary. He said, you voted for it. Now you got it. Enjoy the crap hole you helped to create. This from last hour when we were talking about migrant crime in New York City and people in Brooklyn having just a terrible time with it. The mayor saying, yeah, they're extremely dangerous. Okay. The objective seems clear to me, but then again, okay, it just seems clear to me. Common sense is different in New York than it is in Texas, I suppose, because it seems very clear. Now, what's going to happen? Well, we don't know. Let's see. Democrat response to illegals, murder, and criminal activity, and trying to tie that to native-born Americans so that it's okay. Let more people in. Yeah. All right. Ginny, by the way, says it's raining cats and dogs there. Well, okay. Make sure you get some dog food and cat food. Okay. In the news, this over the weekend, President Joe Biden has called for major changes to the Supreme Court. Actually, that happened this morning, including a constitutional amendment that would limit immunity for presidents, impose term limits for justices, and stipulate an enforceable code of ethics against the Supreme Court or for the Supreme Court. No real idea as to how you would enforce it because that violates separation of powers. It's clearly not going anywhere, but in an op-ed post in the Washington Post, President Biden said, no one is above the law. Not the President of the United States, not a justice on the Supreme Court of the United States, no one. By the way, in case you're wondering, President Biden, according to this USA Today article, has not talked about expanding the Supreme Court. That's a proposal that's popular among progressives as a way to counteract the current conservative supermajority. In July, the Supreme Court ruled that presidents cannot be prosecuted for official acts during their time in office. The court's ruling stemmed from a case concerning former President Donald Trump. President can still be prosecuted for unofficial criminal behavior. That is, by the way, a little bit of spin, if not propaganda. Any president could still be prosecuted for unofficial criminal behavior. But there seems to be a focus on Donald Trump. Maybe it's because he's the Republican frontrunner, or maybe it's because he represents a real threat to what is in place here. the leftists of the United States, in an effort to get their agenda moved forward, often rely on the judicial branch to legislate via law, as opposed to legislating in, say, for example, I don't know, the House of Representatives and the Senate. Maybe if what you worked on was an agenda that people would vote for on a wholesale basis. It's happened for Democrats before. It has. It's happened for Democrats before. It happened in 1964. It happened in 1960. That was a close election. But what I'm trying to tell you is the Democrat Party knows how to reach the American people. At least they used to. Now what they try to do is try to impose their agenda on the American people via the court system. The Supreme Court routinely stands in the way of that insofar as when it comes time to elect a president who will doubtless have an opportunity to replace people on the court, then you find yourself in a position where you have a court that is, in this particular case, more conservative in nature. And this is what we're seeing the left try to do something about. Biden was a U.S. Senator for 36 years. He wrote he'd overseen more Supreme Court nominations as a senator, vice president, and president than anyone living today. What is happening now is not normal. It undermines the public confidence in the court's decisions, including those impacting personal freedoms. We now stand in a breach, said the president in his statement. Well, it depends on what normal is. Remember, I draw a difference between democracy and democracy, which is the idea that Democrats know everything that needs to be known and will act in the best interests of what? Themselves or the party? Well, that's up to you to decide. None of the legislative proposals have any chance of passing in a divided Congress. The measures would need 60 votes for the Senate to block a Republican filibuster. Vice President Kamala Harris, who's running for the Democrat presidential nomination, said in a statement today she supports the proposed changes because the Supreme Court, quote, faces a clear crisis of confidence from the American people. Now, what we've seen is a nonstop attack on the Supreme Court, some overt, indeed refusing to remove protesters from, say, for example, the homes, residences of Supreme Court justices. Further, not taking any action whatsoever on scurrilous and provocative rhetoric from Democrat Party leaders against the Supreme Court. No one is above the law, they say. Well, in the United States, the Supreme Court is the law. They may not be above it, and that may be true, but they are certainly equal to it. And that's why the Supreme Court, the justices, face such incredible scrutiny when they are proposed by various political election winners. And so we used to be in a situation where somebody would be a nominee for the Supreme Court, and it would go through relatively uneventfully. This changed with Clarence Thomas. And now what we see are party line votes with regard to the Supreme Court of the United States. This polarizes the court along political lines. But I will take issue with the President of the United States saying that, my God, the people of America just don't have confidence in the Supreme Court. They have the same confidence they always have had. What the people he's talking about that don't have confidence in the Supreme Court would be people that believe that there should be legislation outside of the House of Representatives and the Senate of the United States, and that should rest with the judicial branch. They may indeed have a lack of confidence in whether or not these political agenda items are going to get through the current court. And there's also something else. Why in heaven's name would Democrats go down this road? They did before. One of the major issues of the 2016 campaign was who is going to be appointing judges in place of the aged ones who would retire. And the American people resonated with that. And here we go again. I have a pretty good idea that at least one of the justices would indeed be considering retirement, that being Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas would then be replaced by whoever was the president. Who would that justice be? Well, it depends on who wins. Depends on who wins. But to bring this up as an issue, an acute one at that, is something that seems to me to be not a good choice by the current Democrat Party from a standpoint of policy. Joe Biden, and there's a report on this, by the way, from CBS News regarding this very topic. Let's take a look at it here on the Wells Report for Monday.
President Biden is proposing major reforms affecting the presidency in the U.S. Supreme Court. Ed O'Keefe is at the Presidential Library of Lyndon B. Johnson in Austin, Texas, where Biden is commemorating the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act. Ed, so what is the president proposing?
Well, Nate, good morning. First up, President Biden is proposing a constitutional amendment that would make clear any former president could face prosecution for crimes committed while in office. It's designed to reverse that recent Supreme Court ruling that says former presidents enjoy at least partial immunity from things they may have done while in office, a ruling that Donald Trump is now using to try to get state and federal cases against him dismissed. The second proposal, a enforceable code of ethics that would require justices to disclose any major gifts they receive and recuse themselves from cases in which their spouses may have a financial or other conflict of interest. It's designed to address recent news reports about the past travel of some justices and the political activity of their spouses. But the boldest proposal from the president would establish 18-year term limits for justices and require a president to nominate a new justice every 2 years. It's unclear exactly how this would work and what it would mean for the current 9 justices who have lifetime appointments. Also important to remember, these are just proposals that would require congressional approval, and as long as Republicans control any part of Congress, it's unlikely they would pass. This was designed to be introduced while President Biden was still running for office to juice his progressive base that's been increasingly concerned about the actions of Supreme Court justices and many of their rulings.
That is a CBS News report. Also, once again, extremely center line when it comes to the reporting of those facts. By the way, President Biden in 1983 had words regarding the Supreme Court and court packing, which may have guided his decision not to discuss expanding the numbers of the Supreme Court. This from C-SPAN in 1983.
President Roosevelt clearly had the right to send to the United States Senate and the United States Congress a proposal to pack the court. It was totally within his right to do that. He violated no law. He was legalistically absolutely correct, but it was a bonehead idea. It was a terrible, terrible mistake to make, and it put in question for an entire decade the independence of the most significant body, including the Congress, in my view, the most significant body in this country, the Supreme Court of the United States of America. The president had the right to do that. He was totally within his power, and his objective was seen clearly. Well, the president clearly has the right to do what he's doing, in my view. It's clearly, it's clear on the face what he's attempting to do. But the fact of the matter is, it is about the worst thing we could do at a time when the problems of the disenfranchised in this country, primarily Black and Hispanic Americans, are being put in serious jeopardy not because of legislation, because of changing economic conditions.
That was Joe Biden in 1983. Prescient, don't you think? May have guided his thinking in this. And like I'm saying, this is going absolutely nowhere. This is more of a policy statement than it is an actual plan for action. It's not going to fly. Part of all of this centers around the presidential immunity aspects of what we've seen in the last 3.5, 4 years. And that is solely focused on Donald Trump. And when you start talking about presidential immunity, etc., the Supreme Court, I believe, did a masterful job in being very good about what presidential immunity is. The questions about presidential immunity were never really asked before. That was before what is called Trump derangement syndrome. But is it bad altogether? No, I suppose that having a more clear understanding of presidential immunity isn't an altogether bad thing. It was just unnecessary. It was just another arrow in the quiver of those people trying to avoid a Trump presidency. And as we move forward, they're still firing those arrows. I don't see that that's going to be a winner. I think that's going to be a mistake because it indeed focuses on, okay, who's going to be choosing the next round of Supreme Court justices and under what circumstances. And by the way, there is no possibility that we are going to see the legislative branch impose a code of ethics on the Supreme Court of the United States. That violates the separation of powers. No, the Supreme Court is going to have to do that on their own, and I suspect there's already something in place. This is the Wells Report, back with more in a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. A little Economics 101. California implemented a new law boosting the minimum wage for fast food workers earlier this year. Some people got $15 an hour. Some people got $20 an hour. A majority of restaurants then increased prices cut employee hours. This, according to a recent report from the Employment Policies Institute. Other restaurants are considering expanding outside the state now more than ever. Since April, when the law took effect, 98% of restaurants surveyed said they've already raised the cost of menu items. 93% plan to do so in 2025. Additionally, 89% reported already reducing the number of employee hours, and 87% plan to do so next year. According to the survey, 70% of eateries have already had to make staff cuts or consolidate positions. Even more, 74% plan to do so in the coming year. That's 2025. The Employment Policies Institute surveyed 182 limited service restaurant operators in the state, fast food folks, over the past 2 months to get a better picture of the impact the new law has had. By bumping up menu prices, the restaurants recognize that their traffic will take a hit to some degree. It's forcing more than half of them to consider expanding outside of California. 74% said there was a greater chance their restaurants would be shut down. Unbelievable. The legislation went into effect in California April 1st, increased minimum wage for restaurants having at least 60 locations nationwide, except those that make and sell their own bread, from $16 an hour to $20 an hour. That equates to an annual salary of $41,600. I was just trying to figure out, see, how long was it before I started working? I basically started working as a senior in high school, so I was 18. And before I made $40,000, how long was that? You know what? I think it was almost 20 years. It was 20 years before I was making 41 grand. Now, inflation and economic growth, which is different than inflation, certainly has something to do with that. But can you imagine flipping burgers for 41 grand a year? Flipping burgers. Well, that's inflationary on two different levels. On the level of, say, for example, let's talk about employee pay. Suddenly there's more money in the marketplace. As we know, when there's more money in the marketplace, prices will expand. The market will expand to collect it. Also, you're in a position where people who are going to Subway, the other day I went into Subway, 3 sandwiches cost $36. $36. At Subway. That's not going to last. It can't last. And California pretty much is chasing many important parts of their economy, especially when you consider California. Everybody drives. You have to drive in California because California is driving people outside of California. I know people who live in Nevada, for crying out loud, that actually commute to LA for their jobs. People in Southern California, as far away as Hesperia, those are hours-long drives into the LA basin to work. I mean, these are places, these are economic policies that are destroying California. So there's less economic power and there's less money for politicians. And so politicians say we've got to tax people more, which chases more people out of California. I know that for a fact because a lot of them are coming to Texas. We all tell them the same thing. Leave California behind. You're in Texas now. Get yourself a good hat and a pair of boots and start learning how to ride a horse. You'll enjoy it, I swear. So anyway, this is California in an economic death spiral. And it starts with the local burger joint down the street. The local burger joint down the street. It's not going to work. It absolutely isn't. But they still keep trying it. Coming up in just a couple of moments, Trump news, Vance news, etc., and some unfortunate quotes by some people that are doing their absolute dead level best to get your vote. We'll have some of those coming up in just a couple of moments as we continue on the Wells Report.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. I found it funny when we played something last hour regarding how the Chinese people are seeing Kamala Harris. And the actual news commentator said that it was a circus. Yeah, it is a circus. We talked about that last week. Trump campaign manager, more circus news. Trump campaign advisor, Jason Miller, said the former President Trump would debate the ultimate Democrat presidential nominee, but was skeptical about whether it was going to be Vice President Harris. This is interesting. Gives you a little idea of why Chuck Schumer is talking about, hey, you know, J.D. Vance is kind of strange. He's erratic and he's weird. Yeah. Well, is there something going on here? You know, is there something going on? What happens if Kamala Harris's poll numbers tank? They've done it once already. They simply just staged a political coup against Joe Biden after saying, no, I'm in it to win it. I'm going to be here. He wasn't there. And so is that in the cards? Is it possible that Kamala Harris may not be the Democrat nominee? Frankly, I don't see it. I'll explain why coming up a little bit later on. But Jason Miller says he's not sure. Quote, we think Democrats need to pick who their ultimate nominee is going to be, when he was asked if Trump would debate Harris. President Biden announced last week he would drop out of the presidential race, endorsing his vice president, Kamala Harris, as the next nominee for the Democrat Party. Harris, the presumptive nominee, has not yet officially won her party's nomination. That needs to be formalized before we go and lock in all the debates, said Mr. Miller. When pressed by MSNBC host Chris Jansing on the issue, Miller said the Democrat Party only recently decided to rally behind Harris. Quote, hold on, we need to make sure the Democrats actually go through and lock in Kamala Harris. It was only a month ago that many Democrats who wanted to throw Joe Biden overboard were saying, we need to go to this mini primary. We need to go with somebody else other than Kamala Harris. That's true. Quote, it's only been this past week that we've seen any sort of effort to rally around Kamala Harris. The exact same people, in fact, were saying that Joe Biden was okay, that the same people are saying they now have to get behind Harris. And at least as far as the vocal members of the electorate and talking heads, that's exactly what happened. I mean, it was one of those things. I mean, they just coalesced behind Kamala Harris. She's the best thing since FDR. Really? No, I wouldn't say so. That remains to be seen. We still haven't had her talk about substantive issues yet. And certainly if she's the nominee, I'm sure that President Trump is going to debate her. And so is Mr. Miller. 14 million Democrats voted for Joe Biden in the primary system, said Miller. And now all those voters will be told their votes were invalidated. That's called disenfranchisement. Will Donald Trump debate Kamala Harris? Jansing asked Mr. Miller. Of course, we're going to debate the Democrat nominee if that's Kamala Harris once she goes through and that becomes formalized. I believe the date we're looking at is August 7th. Harris, the presumptive nominee for Democrats, already raised $200 million in fundraising for her campaign. In a release, the campaign touted what they called a record-shattering haul and noted that 2/3 of the contributions came from first-time donors, which they argued was further proof of the tremendous grassroots support for Vice President Harris. There you go. We were talking about this last hour, but we'll bring it back up a little bit more. Senator J.D. Vance fired back at Democrats for their latest attack on his recently revived quip about childless cat ladies running the country, accusing them of taking the remark out of context. Here's what he said, quote, if you look at the full context of what I said, it's very clear Democrats have tried to make this thing out of context and blow it out of proportion, which is what they always do because they don't have an agenda to run on themselves, he told Fox News' Trey Gowdy on Sunday Night in America. In the 2021 interview in Focus, Vance said, quote, we are effectively running this country via Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. He also specifically called out prominent left-wing figures, including Vice President Kamala Harris and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as examples of that type. Left out of this, and once again, when you start thinking about the difference between news and propaganda, it's what you leave out. He also mentioned Pete Buttigieg in that childless cat woman thing, cat lady's statement. After the comment resurfaced, the Ohio senator and Trump running mate took heat from the likes of former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, actress Jennifer Aniston, and the Harris campaign for allegedly devaluing women who do not have children or are unable to have children. He clarified this on Sunday. If you look at what the American people are most concerned about, it's not an out-of-context quip I made 3 years ago. It's the fact that Kamala Harris, the border czar, opened the American southern border. It's the fact the Democrat Party has become explicitly anti-family in some of their policies. He goes on to say, quote, in fact, you just heard Kamala Harris in a surfaced clip recently talk about how it was a bad idea to have kids because of climate change. So what I'm trying to get at here is that it's important for us to be a pro-family nation. Of course, for a whole host of reasons, it's not going to work for some people. We should pray for those people and have sympathy for them. I still think that means we should be pro-family, generally speaking, as a party. Okay. Welcome to hardball, big-time politics, Senator Vance. This is going to happen more. It's going to happen not just for Senator Vance. It's also going to happen for Vice President Harris. It's already happened with Donald Trump. In fact, we're about to discuss another statement that he made, which was immediately seized on by the leftist press. Look, when you say things, or if you have said things, you really have to understand one of the essential tenets of American life, and that is the free press. While the free press is basically sold out to politics, just about any news source does or has, then you're in a position where every chance they can to use news, not just current news, but as we've seen going back 3 years, the library of comments made, you're going to be haunted by some of the things you said. Because none of that stuff is gone anymore. It's not like it gets reported or it gets filmed, because film is gone, been long gone for a long time. So you can't go to a film library, grab something, and then put it back up as a news story. So what you have is you have all this stuff on YouTube, all of these social media sites, Facebook, all these comments are out there. And Senator Vance, you need to be ready for that. More ready than you have been. And certainly those statements require an answer. And oh, by the way, you don't get to control the context of the mainstream media. You don't. They establish the context. Okay, so you were talking about something, maybe riffing, maybe not really thinking about what your future was going to hold. Obviously, 3 years ago, he did not know he was going to be a vice presidential candidate. So what you got here is you've got all these statements being made, and this goes for everybody in this campaign. You've got these statements that have been made, and they will indeed be indicative of what they said then. What you should do as a consumer of news is you should say, okay, is he saying these things now? We just showed you a clip of Joe Biden talking about how it was a bonehead idea to expand the court when FDR tried to do it back in the 30s. And then he said, when he's proposing these Supreme Court changes that we just reported, he didn't put expanding the Supreme Court in it. So he's been consistent. So you can pretty much say, okay, President Biden is not somebody who wants to expand the court. Okay, because it's consistent. So has J.D. Vance said these things today? Same cat lady comment. No, he's reacted to it. And he's tried to explain it. But if you're trying to explain something that you said, you're losing. So all I can tell you is, Senator Vance, yeah, welcome to the circus. Welcome to the circus. It wasn't just J.D. Vance that said something that was immediately exploited by the leftist press. Former President Donald Trump struck several familiar notes in his address to Christians at Turning Point Action's, quote, Believers Summit in West Palm Beach, Florida. The gathering of religious conservatives last Friday was an opportunity for Trump to appeal to the critical Republican voting bloc. The Republican nominee promised to protect religious freedoms and touted his history of supporting the Israeli government. Trump also urged Christians to turn out for him ahead of Election Day, citing it the most important election ever. He added that if elected, Christian-related concerns will be fixed so that they would no longer need to be politically engaged. Quote, you won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years. You know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. Obviously, this was turned into Trump is going to take over the entire country. He's going to suspend elections. And the froth began to spray, on various news sources, specifically MSNBC, because they do that all the time. The thing about it is that the first time you see some of this froth flying out of the mouth of any political commentator who is so strident that their actual points are being submerged by their behavior and their communication, you stop paying attention to the froth. MSNBC is run out of people that are shocked by what they say about a particular candidate insofar as they've used it over and over and over again. But this does point out something that I've been saying about President Trump. You have to be smarter than the propagandists, Mr. President. And yeah, if you are elected Mr. Vice President, you're going to have to be careful about that. And you're going to see a master's class on it when some of these past statements come back out. Do we need to be cautious about what people have said in the past and what those statements are being used for as political tools? Yes. But that's why I differentiated between what did they say then and what do they say now? What did they say then and what did they say now? A lot of candidates said things back in the day that are still operative. I'm not going to point out who those candidates are. That's not my job. As a commentator, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to explain what you're going to be seeing and what you need to do from a standpoint of trying to glean the facts and how to deal with all of these statements. This fragmentary idea of the scurrilous statement du jour is something that's going to happen more often than not as we move forward. And as I also said, if you're attacking J.D. Vance, it's because he makes you nervous. And that's true. That is completely, abundantly true. So, a little bit of information for you, but President Trump needs to be more cautious, especially now as he goes out to these events. I've said it over and over and over again, Mr. President. If you want this job, you have to act like a president. You are going to have to anticipate the propagandist mob and how they will twist your words. Now they're going to keep doing it. It's just part and parcel of American politics. But if you stop giving them ammunition, sir, you will have less things that you have to clean up later. One of the things that we talked about with President Biden, he's a gaffe machine. The hardest job in American politics for the last 3.5 years is cleaning up after President Biden. You don't want to be in that same picture. You don't want to be in that same set of reporting circumstances. You need to have a speech ready. You need to stick to it. You need to stay on message, and you need to be more disciplined in your communications with the people of the United States, especially now. Now, I know he can do it because he's done it before. Now, I have also found that it's really amazing how many people that go to Trump rallies and listen to President Trump and so on will go there and really enjoy those off-the-cuff moments. Maybe it's, from a populist standpoint, a good idea. But is it a good idea from a political standpoint, especially when you have an adversarial press? And don't think for a moment that anti-Trump Republicans are not still out there. They've been squashed. They have. But they're still there. They're still there. You know, I'm telling you, Mitch McConnell is still there. And you got to be very careful about what happens, not so much in public, but you do have to be careful about what happens in private. You know, and Just because we haven't heard from Mike Pence in months doesn't mean that he's not going to show up here pretty soon. Just food for thought. Something to keep in mind as you try to make the decision about who you're going to vote for. Once again, I'm not advocating for any particular candidate. I'm just talking about the issues that are involved in you making a decision about the candidate you support. Telephone number 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. The chat room is open for business. We'll go through some of that a little bit later on as we continue on the Wells Report for this Monday. Back with more coming up in just a moment.
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. Got a lot of things to talk about here regarding the Olympic Games. And it got off to a rather rocky start with an opening ceremony that has created all kinds of consternation. It was nuts. And the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, is now performing the kind of cleanup that you normally reserve in this country, at least, for our political candidates. Take a look at what they had to say regarding the opening ceremonies at the Paris Olympics.
Really, there was never an intention to show disrespect to any religious group. On the contrary, I think that Thomas Joly really tried to really intend to celebrate community tolerance. That was his word yesterday. And looking at the result of the polls that we shared, we believe that this ambition was achieved. If people have taken any offense, we are, of course, really, really sorry.
Ma volonté n'est pas d'être subversif ni de me
That is
moquer.
Thomas Joly. He is speaking French. I'm going to move on. So anyway, yeah, there's a little bit of a problem there, isn't there? Yeah, and that's not the only one. Going back to the opening ceremonies, the International Olympic Committee noticed a small little error. That error was on Saturday when they introduced the South Korean Olympic team as being from North Korea. Oops. The gaffe happened as the South Korean delegation sailed down the Seine in the French capital of Paris on Friday evening. The team was introduced as being from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, the full name for North Korea. South Korea, meanwhile, is formally known as the Republic of Korea. The sign on the boat carrying the South Korean athletes did show the correct name. Counting the Winter Olympics, France is hosting its 7th Olympic Games through October, make that August 11th. The IOC immediately said, "We deeply apologize for the mistake that occurred when introducing the South Korean team during the broadcast of the opening ceremony." This according to the IOC. IOC spokesperson Mark Adams said the error was clearly deeply regrettable. An operational mistake was made. We can only apologize in the evening of so many moving parts that this mistake was made. Seoul reacted angrily to the mistake. President Yoon Suk Yeol telling the IOC chief Thomas Bach that they were bewildered by the mix-up. Yoon requested the error not be made again, while Bach told Yoon it was an inexcusable incident. South Korea's sports ministry earlier called the gaffe an incomprehensible mistake, except they didn't use a French accent. Seoul also said it would file a strong government-level complaint with the French government. And then there's this. So in case you missed it, the French Olympic Games opening ceremony was a drag show. All right. Nicky Doll was a part of that. He was one of the drag queens who carried the Olympic torch. A drag queen who was one of the many torchbearers for the Paris Olympics, says Fox News, had a message for the critics amid uproar over the opening ceremony, which appeared to mock the Last Supper. Nicky Doll was among the drag queens to carry the torch of the Olympic flame, but also was performing during one of the segments of the ceremony. Doll reposted an image. I almost said his. Well, I guess okay. Doll reposted an image of his Instagram stories, claiming the image depicted was not of the Last Supper, but the Feast of Dionysus. Yeah, well, that doesn't really fly insofar as Leonardo da Vinci is buried in France. I've been to his grave. He painted the Last Supper, and the imagery is inescapable. The opening ceremony did ruffle some feathers, and I love it, said Doll. You know why? Because the Olympics are the biggest stage in the world, and us queer people have always been the audience of other people's lives and achievements. It's time that we are welcome into the space. It was my absolute honor to perform in front of billions of people around the world, and we celebrate our Olympians. And remember, to the ones that had their feathers ruffled seeing queerness on their screen, we ain't going anywhere. The ceremony segment appeared to resemble the depiction of the Last Supper, famously painted by Leonardo da Vinci. The performance ensemble included drag queens, a transgender model, a naked singer who was stylized to resemble the Greek god Dionysus. And also there was a ménage à trois, as they say in Paris. I mean, it was a nightmare. It was a public relations nightmare. And why they did it, you know, they were talking about, hey, we wanted to be inclusive. We wanted to share the Olympic Games with all people. And I said, great. Where are the parents with their children in the opening ceremony? Oops. Yeah, try not to do that. So stupid. Our ambition has achieved. This, by the way, was from the 2024 spokesperson Anne Deschamps. You heard her a moment ago. Clearly, there was never an intention to show disrespect to any religious group. Yeah. Another French LGBT leader suggested the ceremony did not go far enough We know the LGBT community in France. We are far from what the ceremony showed. There's much progress to do in society regarding transgender people. It's terrible that to legally change their identity, that they are forced to be on trial. That was LGBT President James Le Perrier. I still don't know what he was talking about. Yeah. Okay, so once again, it could be worse. It could be worse. They could have had a whole bunch of childless cat ladies in the open. Okay, that'll probably be taken out of context. Fortunately, I'm not running for anything. This is the Wells Report. This is the Wells Report. Thanks for watching this. We'll be back again tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. We'll see you tomorrow. Oh, that was so funny. So funny. So anyway, there you go. Let's see. That's a little dramatic, Alicia. I'm not going to read it. Let's see. Horse hockey. How many of those people even know Greek mythology? Yeah. There's a really good joke there, but I'm not going to say it except to say that I'm sure they're aware of various aspects of Greek life. There. What else? Oh, for God's sakes, think about it. Let's see. So they have to debase the Last Supper to make it pagan. Figures. Yeah. Lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, and pride of life is clear. Yes. Let's see what else. Have a great day, everybody. There's not enough bleach to get the images of the opening ceremonies out of my eyes. Don't put bleach in your eyes. Don't do it. Okay? And stop effing with kids. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Check your email. I sent a VIP protection article from Police Magazine. Oh, cool. All right. Back to my other life. God bless you and yours. Take good care of yourselves. Thank you so much again for being a part of this fine, high-quality this fine, high-quality YouTube, X, Facebook, Rumble, Thanks very much for being a part of the broadcast. Like I said, I will see you again tomorrow. Until then, take care. Be safe. Make good decisions. And